All right, everyone. Joy Reid is not necessarily a fan of Trump. She's a prominent black journalist, or journalist so-called, or TV anchor. I don't know exactly what term you'd use for, I believe, MSNBC. And she did like a joke bit about Trump's beauty tips, mocking him for being orange. Admittedly, I will say this, it is fairly obvious that Trump deliberately overuses bronzer. Probably because, he's an older dude, so he's probably actually rather pale. The reason for this also seems to be to distract people, to get them talking about that so that they're not talking about any policies. See, if your criticism of Trump is he looks weird, well, that's not really an intellectual position. That's just bullshit. It's tabloid-esque, lowbrow. And Trump's really, he thrives in that sort of atmosphere because that's what he's used to. So he really disarms his enemies, I think, by doing so. So she came out and she had Trump's smoking hot beauty tips, I believe it was, basically joking about his appearance. Oh, he's chubby or orange or whatever. The usual bullshit that we get from the left because they can't formulate an intellectual argument due to a lack of coherency. And he fired back and said she was a no talent. So Mother Jones and some of these other groups immediately lashed out and said, "Oh my God, he's criticizing a black newswoman again." In other words, they immediately made it a racial thing. It's like in that same week period, how many other journalists did he insult in that week or since the beginning of September? How many people within the legacy media have been insulted personally by Trump in that period? It's probably in the dozens. How many of them were not black? How many of them were white males? More than half of them. So I don't know what the fucking problem is. I guess he's not allowed to defend himself against someone because they happen to have black skin. Well, that seems to be kind of a racist opinion. Now, I wouldn't expect anything less from opportunists like the ones at Mother Jones and places like that. It's funny because didn't Mother Jones grab audio initially? Like years ago. I think I uploaded it briefly at the time from the 2012 election, actually, of like Mitt Romney at a fundraiser, some secret recording of him, and they managed to get it. It showed all sorts of weird shit. Mother Jones occasionally will do something good and break a story, and they're indiscriminate. They will do it to Democrats. They have done that before in their defense. But insofar as they're like attacking Trump on this, so why don't you focus on what he actually said? Why don't you just label him a generic bully like you usually do? Why does it have to do with the skin color? So in other words, like let's say that there's a legacy media hit piece written about me, and I choose to respond to it and say, basically, fuck off, you're full of shit. So if the person who wrote it is not a white male, it makes me like racist or sexist. I'm sure there are some people who, for opportunistic reasons, would love that to be accepted as the case. Groups such as the person who wrote it, their fans, and people who hate my political ideology. Oh, it's amazing how that works. Yes, I'm sure the average Mother Jones reader is a very, very dear fan of Donald Trump and all of his various populistic policies. It's sort of like when I condemned The Verge there for their bullshit, their censorious bullshit regarding their defense of the ADL, and I pointed out their mistake, which is they labeled the ADL an anti-hate group. I corrected them and said pro-censorship group, which is what they are. And then there were a bunch of people there going crazy, and most of them had like hammer and sickles in their username, or like, rainbow avatars with a psychedelic picture of Mao or something. I noticed that trend appears remarkably stable across platforms, especially on Twitter. Trust me, Twitter's the worst. YouTube comments are a distant second. And I do mean distant. Amazon reviews arguably third. It's really funny. They can get edgy sometimes. I actually fucking love it. I also love it like when people like satirize or criticize me, I find that funny. And it's interesting how much more humorless the responses are from some of these groups. They get so self-righteous, they take everything so seriously they can't have a good time. So they can't say like, anal corn cob and funny things like that. I sit here, I'll mouth off. I'll start talking about these people like, one thing that I do is when you start taking politicians too seriously, imagine them taking a big dump, or imagine them docking each other. So like, Donald Trump, you don't want to take him too seriously. Imagine him having gay sex with Mike Pence or something. I think that's a good, healthy mental practice. Don't take people too seriously. Really, like, they're still human beings. They get sick, they shit, they're gonna die someday. When they die, they'll rot, or they'll get burned, into ashes or whatever. Who gives a shit? Life is short and possibly an illusion, so fucking laugh a little bit more. Fucking stop being so fucking humorless. That's my advice to the world. The legacy media finds it funny to antagonize Trump, but whenever he responds, they have a big dick about it. He's attacking the press. He this person who spent weeks rambling about him. He dared to insult them. He is attacking the First Amendment. He's attacking the media. Oh my God, our founders would be ashamed. No, our founders probably would have said that if he's being slandered, he should challenge him to a duel if he's being slandered. They literally would have done shit like that or beaten each other up in a drunken fit of rage. That's what our founders did. It's similar to the Second Amendment debate. And they're like, is this really what our founders intended? And then they compare like a primitive musket to an AR-15. Yeah, it is. In fact, they would love it. Oh my God, every single one of them would have had several AR-15s. They would have had mountains of ammo. They would have grenade launchers and tanks. They would have been roving around in the woods, challenging each other to duels and doing crazy shit. They would have been like jousting with tanks and stuff if our founders had had the modern tech we have today. They would have done tank jousting and trying to hit things at increasingly large distances. They would have blown up entire mountains just for their own amusement. Maybe not great for the environment, but it would have been great for their male camaraderie. Their wives can join in too. I'm sure that eventually the weapons would have gotten cool enough that they would have demanded suffrage anyway. Probably would have gained it. It said, yeah, the more the merrier. I want my ears to be ringing all night from all the firepower all during the day. It's funny to watch this weird situation play out, and the little people get involved too. It's like if you look at a group of leftists on a post, like if you look at any Twitter post about this, you see them saying, oh, well, Orange Man bad, he's such a big bully. But the thing is, Joy Reid and all of these others are habitually, all they talk about is Trump. He's all-encompassing. I mean, he's constantly on their minds. He lives rent-free in them. You've heard of the term Trump derangement syndrome. Normally it's used in jest, but it actually is sort of a thing. Within the context of the corporate media, your job is to drive ad revenue. If I'm in the corporate media, I'm getting my 6-7 figure salary, whatever. Maybe I'm only getting 5 figures. I'm working the local field office. My job is to get the news, make it interesting, readable, informative maybe as an afterthought, and then I put it out there and people go to the article, and hopefully the effort expended in hosting the article, talking about it on video, whatever's being done, hopefully the amount of money used on that is less than the amount of advertisement revenue and other revenue coming in as a result of that. Merchandise sales, donations from third parties, partnerships with corporations, whatever it happens to be, whatever the pay structure is. It's a for-profit entity, so you're going to clickbait. It's inevitable. And once one group starts doing this, by the way, Fox initialized this essentially. In all admission, it was Fox primarily that did this in the 90s with its new format. I think the 90s or like early 2000s, somewhere around there. Essentially, modernizing the media structure to make it more infotainment. Well, everyone else quickly followed suit. That, by the way, started the demise of cable. Reality TV and Fox News' swooping lights and loud music and shit, replacing the Tom Brokaws of yesteryear, essentially crushed corporate media. Then it got put online. Now they're innovating further. They're devolving into literal clickbait. Meanwhile, they will run stories about how YouTubers use clickbait and it's not fair and it's not good. They're hypocrites. They're just tired of being competed with by people who know more than they do. They're tired of being out-innovated. They want more money. So Trump's not allowed to defend himself against a black woman, even if she's been antagonizing him openly her entire fucking modern career. Since he takes office, and has never said, as far as I know, one kind thing about Trump, is a political partisan. Well, you can get that back. Maybe Trump should come out and call her racist and say she just hates white people or something. That would be funny. Oh, the reaction would be massive and palpable. This skates by. But if you claim the opposite, which is really claiming the same thing only with a different melanin count, then you'll get people jumping down your throat screaming about how reverse racism isn't real. You can only be racist against the oppressors, and that means white people. And like weird, stupid shit like that I guess they teach that in universities now. I'm a college dropout. I saved a bunch of money. I'm very, very glad. I should have dropped out quicker. Never should have bothered going to college. I should have gone to a fucking trade school. But then I'd probably have a decent job without debt and I never would have become a YouTuber. Yeah. Maybe it's good that I went to college and got that debt so that I'd be under enough stress to work harder. Now, it's the only reason I have hundreds of books available for sale, I guess. So I guess I can thank UVM for one thing. You are so, you addle people with so much debt and your pay structure is so fundamentally abysmal. And you are such corrupt jerk-offs that you forced me to work harder, and I actually managed to succeed in part because of the debt gained from UVM. Thanks for that. By the way, after 10 years, they automatically, like, whatever's left, they'll, like, write off. Probably won't even last that long, though, at this point. I don't know. But then they count it as income, so you can end up actually fucked by debt forgiveness. Did you know this? For those of you dutifully paying back your student debt, be very careful, because after that 10 years, I believe, under some situations, it's written off as income. Like, if you owe $20,000 more, they'll just count it as income. So you still have to pay a proportion of that because it's being counted as income. So that can be unfortunate. You know, you're like, oh yeah, all of a sudden I owe $5,000 extra to the government and don't know why, and then you call up your account, and oh yeah, because your student debt was forgiven. Congratulations on being debt-free. Now you're in debt to the IRS, but, you know, at the very least, you know, you're not in debt to the student loan company anymore. The debt servicer. At some point, I remember years ago, I know I'm completely off topic at this point, I think somebody hacked into one of those places and, like, erased a bunch of student debt, like, for thousands of people. Oh, if only somebody could, I'm not encouraging this because it'd be super illegal, but if only some, like, foreign group were to erase all of their debt holdings, like, cause all of their servers to wipe themselves, that would be so funny. We could solve the student debt crisis if we just had one group of script kiddies capable of doing something like that. Debt wouldn't exist anymore. You think these people keep paper backups of everything that are reliable? Hell no. Most of in court, they would lose most of those cases, and people would just skate and be given their debt forgiveness. That would be a very interesting time. Be class action, I'm sure, too. That's about all. Peace out.